The big news of the week has been the UK budget, and specifically the news that the games industry will no longer be getting the tax breaks it was promised only mere weeks ago. The news sent ripples through the UK development community, with prominent figureheads including Labour's Tom Watson decrying the news and fearing that the UK could continue to lose talent to other countries such as Canada. Indeed, Bobby Kotick, the boss of the world's biggest games publisher, Activision Blizzard, has revealed that the scrapped tax relief programme could threaten the company's plans to invest in the UK in future. To find out more about the issue and how it will affect the UK games industry, we spoke to Richard Wilson of the industry trade body TIGA.
I'm Richard Wilson. I'm the CEO of TIGA, and TIGA is the trade association representing the UK games industry. We have about 135 members, which include publisher-owned studios, publishers, video game developers, technology businesses, universities and colleges. So TIGA is a broad church of organisations that are interested in the UK games industry. We focus, or our key vision is to make the UK the best place in the world to do games business. And to that end, we lobby the UK government and the Westminster government and the Scottish Parliament. We work to raise the media profile of the games industry, and we offer benefits and services to help our members become ever more competitive.
So what was your response to last week's news that the UK government was going to rescind on the previous government's plans for games industry tax breaks? You've been quite outspoken, but tell us about your broad opinion on that.
Yes. I was very disappointed by the coalition government's announcement in the budget that it would not proceed with games tax relief. I was disappointed because the Conservatives and Liberal Democrats before the election gave unequivocal commitments to introduce games tax relief. In fact, I was delighted at the time of the March budget because there was cross-party support and unanimity for the proposals. And we went into the last election with the Scottish National Party, the Labour Party, actually including the video games industry and the games tax relief in their manifestos, which is a tremendous achievement for the UK video games industry and for TIGA and its membership in particular, since we've been driving this campaign forward, sometimes on our own, as you will know. And at the time of the budget, I was very pleased because the Liberal Democrats and Conservatives were positive. They made positive comments, and as I say, in the run-up to the general election, both the parties that are now in the coalition government in Westminster said unequivocally that they would introduce tax breaks for games production. In fact, the Conservatives are on record as saying they would introduce tax breaks in their first budget. So we had a complete reversal of a policy. Now, of course, the news that a politician breaks a promise is not exactly, man bites dog, but nonetheless it's very disappointing. And it's all very well for politicians to say, the economic situation is difficult, but this is one of the reasons why people are so cynical about politicians. They make pre-election promises and then they're broken. I would say that I think the Conservative culture team, Ed Vaizey and Jeremy Hunt, I think are generally interested in our sector. I think they're supportive of our sector, as is Don Foster, the Liberal Democrats. I think they, insofar as I can tell, I believe they support games tax relief. So I think it's all the more disappointing that their colleagues in the Treasury have not proceeded with it. But you always know where you are with the Treasury, they always let you down.
So George Osborne actually called the plans poorly targeted. Do you think that the plans themselves were the problem? Do you think that they were kind of unmanageable and unenforceable?
No, we think that we came up with a very specific, sector-specific set of proposals that wouldn't cost the government too much money up front and would actually create a net return for the government. In some respects, it's quite amusing, actually, in a black kind of way, actually, to be told the proposal is poorly targeted. I mean, it was targeted at the games industry because that's how the government, the previous government, had asked us to put forward a proposal to introduce a tax break for games production. And of course, it's worth bearing in mind that the Treasury hasn't got rid of all its civil servants that previously approved of the plans. The Treasury thought the proposals we put forward in December and in March of this year, they thought the proposals stacked up. They thought the facts and figures that we used were very similar to their own. So we convinced them intellectually, I think. So I don't accept the argument that the games tax relief was poorly targeted. It was a sector-specific tax break that actually would generate revenue for the Treasury. And it's worth bearing in mind that our research showed that over a 5-year period, games tax relief would cost the Treasury £192 million. Over the same period, it would generate £415 million for the Treasury in tax receipts. So it was a net earner for the Treasury. And that ignores all the other benefits that games tax relief would have brought in. We calculated that over that 5-year period, it would have generated another 3,500 graduate level jobs, very skilled jobs, well paid jobs. And it would have also brought in another £457 million of investment into the UK games industry. One of the reasons why I still remain confident that ultimately we will get games tax relief in, or a very similar fiscal measure, is because the whole sort of zeitgeist of economic policy is about moving the economy or rebalancing the economy away from public services and financial services on the one hand to export-oriented, high-paid, high-skilled jobs on the other. And the games industry, of course, fits that bill perfectly. We're very high skilled. A typical TIGA member like Real Time Worlds in Scotland or Rebellion in Oxford will have about 80% of their staff qualified at degree level. We know that our industry is export oriented. Our research shows that 91% of developers in the UK export their games. I mean, that's incredible. Compared to the national average, only about a third of small or medium-sized enterprises actually export. Above average rates of pay, and of course the sector's high technology. Again, our research shows that something like 2/5 of game developers actually have a budget specifically earmarked for R&D, which again is above the national average. So this is just the kind of sector that the coalition government, and indeed any government, should want to support, which is why I believe ultimately our arguments will carry weight.
So what's the impact in terms of going forward now, assuming that nothing is going to come in within the next year? I think these are TIGA figures, but 15% of UK development studios went out of business last year. About 700 British development jobs were lost as well. Do you think that's kind of set to continue now?
The sad thing is that if we don't get games tax relief, jobs and businesses will close. Our research shows that between July 2008 and July 2009, 15% of UK games businesses just closed down. They ceased to operate. And over the period July 2008 to March 2010, 7% of the UK games workforce lost their jobs. And we estimate, and it is an estimation, but we estimate that about 300 of the 700 jobs that were lost went to Canada or to other jurisdictions. So we believe that not only is the UK games industry losing skilled staff, but actually the UK is losing skilled staff. Not all of them are staying in the United Kingdom. Some of them are pushing off to other countries. So that's a loss not just for our sector, but for the wider UK economy. So if games tax relief isn't introduced, if we don't have a similar fiscal measure that will help the UK games industry compete on a level playing field, we will lose jobs in the games industry and we will lose investment. Just to give you one example, we expect that if we don't have games tax relief, we expect that over a 5-year period, the games industry workforce, the development workforce, will shrink from about 9,000 as of today to around about 7,000 in 5 years' time. It doesn't sound catastrophic. Well, obviously it's bad news for the 2,000 or so people involved, but it's bad news for the UK economy. It's bad for the argument that the UK should be a digital hub. It's bad for the idea that the UK economy should rebalance from the old industries that have failed in the past to the new industries of the future. And it's bad for the Treasury, because our data shows that the Treasury will obviously learn less money, generate less money in the future, because there'll be less economic activity flowing from games tax relief. So the failure to introduce games tax relief is bad for the UK games industry, but it's bad for the UK economy, and ultimately it's bad for the government.
Thanks to Richard for talking to us, and we asked you guys what you thought of the news, and Callum O'Sullivan said, personally, I think it's outrageous. They made a promise, broke the promise, and now that gaming tax breaks have been cancelled, companies might choose to take themselves elsewhere, yet again affecting the economy and the future of young people who want to design games.
Yeah, Sam Clay was similarly disappointed. He said, absolute disgrace. Even though the industry makes more money than the film industry, apparently the government can't justify itself to help out the UK games industry. It's practically like the government torching a pile of money that's sitting on their desk. Oh wait, it is.
It's practically like that.
That's what they're doing right now in the Treasury. Remember, you can read the full news over on our news channel, so head over to tinyurl.com/UKGamesTax to check out the full story from Alex on our team. We also want to hear your views on the matter, so point your browser at facebook.com/GameSpotUK to join in the discussion.